The world's greatest golf courses are rarely just one thing. They are, to paraphrase the poet Walt Whitman, large and contain multitudes. Royal County Down on the Irish Sea of Northern Ireland has capacities that can hardly be contained or explained. It is beauty and brawn. It is strategic and heroic, the summer's blaze and winter's brood. Its links are grandiose yet subtle, often maddening and blustery, but never less than scintillating and seductive. The holes are a witch's brew of deception and temptation, rolling high and low over the dunes, and throwing bunkers and blind shots into frame faster than the golfer can react. Golf Digest ranks Royal County Down the #1 course in the world outside the US, and for good reason. The feat of playing here is at once a grand adventure and the most dangerous game, where the greatest joy comes from battling the beast and surviving, much more so than merely tallying the final score. This is every hole at Royal County Down. The start to what many believe to be the finest front nine in golf is a downwind par 5 that traverses through a valley with a string of dunes on the left and the Irish Sea on the right. Optimistic souls, with an opening eagle in mind, will need to run a long approach shot through a gap in the dunes just shy of the green. But layups would be wise to stay short of the narrows for a more level lie and better angle into the long, skinny and slightly raised plateau putting surface that falls away on both sides. With some of the fastest green speeds in Ireland, sound judgment with pace is vital to playing well on these championship links. The second hole starts high along the beach with a stunning view of the shimmering Dundrum Bay to the right. The long tee shot on this par 4 plays blindly up and over the crest of a mountainous dune, though the fairway is ample and guarded by just 2 bunkers on the left. Another pair of cross bunkers cut into a saddle between hummocks short of the green play havoc with the optics. While the target appears to be just beyond them, it is set more than 40 yards further on. The diabolical green slopes steeply back to front, and caddies will often tell tales of putts with too much pace that race off unfazed into the surrounding hallows below. The mighty third is County Down's second longest par 4, though the distance is lessened as it runs typically downwind in the same direction as the first 2 holes. Playing toward a section of dunes beyond the green that are even larger than those on the course, the favoured line is down the left side of the fairway that opens up a view of the green, though drives too far left will end up in hollows and partially blocked out. Straying too far offline anywhere here can result in lost shots, if not lost balls, including in the thick fescue and marram grasses that line the top edges of the bunkers, the eyebrows that County Down has made famous. If there's a more attractive inland par 3 in links golf than the 4th at Royal County Down, we're waiting to see it. With the convex green set snug in a hollow of flowering gorse, heather and 9 bunkers, the hole feels divinely created, though it's not God's work at hand, but rather Harry Colt's, who added it to the layout in 1926. Switching back into the wind, it's one of the course's toughest shots, requiring a long tee shot that must somehow hold the centre of the putting surface without trundling off into the surrounding swales. Continuing to work back south into the mountains of Mourne, the 5th is the first pronounced dogleg on the course that skirts right around a sandhill that obscures most of the fairway. This is a bite off what you dare drive with strategic implications. Shorten the hole by taking on the bunkers lurking on the inside corner, or play longer to the left for a more open angle into the green. No matter where the ball ends up, the billowing ground contour will complicate shot shapes and trajectory, and a deft short game around another slightly elevated green will likely be necessary to save pars and even bogeys. Another blind tee shot over a craggy dune greets players at the 6th, a drive and a pitch par 4 that once again switches back to play to the north. When the ground is firm, tailwind drives down the right must take care not to chase into a lone bunker at 290 yards from the member tees, but shots that don't crest over a bubbling ridge on the left will have no view of the green. Though short, the 6 is not likely to succumb to power, and a smarter tactic is to place a ball shy of the fairway bunker for a controlled wedge into a turtleback green that repels indifferent shots off the edges. The little sibling to the 4th hole, the 7th, is a par 3 measuring a mere 144 yards. But don't let the scorecard deceive you. It can be wicked and unforgiving, even in calm conditions. Slightly angled from the tee, the green resembles an upside-down potato chip that ejects balls on the front left and back right portions, making the target almost a quarter of its actual size. Recovery shots are challenging from anywhere, and a back right pin can result in head-scratching confusion, leaving players wondering how to play it, and how a hole of this length can be so cruel. At any other course, this 430-yard par 4 would be a moment of singular beauty, but at Royal County Down it's merely another in a long line of gorgeous two-shotters. Compared to what's come before, this is a what you see is what you get tee shot, with the fairway visibly bubbling between low fescue-covered hills. The challenge line is down the right, but big hitters should be mindful of a new fairway bunker added on the left that can trap those travelling the quote-unquote safer route. This is another masterfully designed green, a lightning-fast tabletop, exposed to the howling wind and plunging into pits of despair on 3 sides. No hole encapsulates Royal County Down quite like the 9th. A 483-yard roller coaster, widely considered one of the finest par 4s in the world. It's really a hole in 2 parts. Off the highly elevated tee, there's little to see or aim at other than the rose-coloured steeple of the sleeved-honoured hotel in the distance. But the fairway drops 60 feet at the horizon line, revealing one of the most spectacular views in golf, as it unfurls through the dunes towards the hotel, Newcastle, the red-topped clubhouse, and the misty mountains of Mourne. Pause for a moment and take in the beauty of the surroundings. This is surely close to golfing nirvana. There is a unique tradition at County Down called the Hat, which is woven into the fabric of club life. From early days, members would take the train down from Belfast, and while they warmed up with soup and libations, the Hat Man would pull their names from a hat to determine the day's pairings. It was a way for members to play with everyone in the club and to foster a sense of shared friendship and companionship. Today, members are more likely to drive to the course, but the tradition remains, and demonstrates that what often makes this course special isn't just the land it's played across, but the company that is kept. Any hole that follows the 9th is bound to be a letdown, but the 10th kicks off County Down's home 9 in spirited fashion, with a downhill par 3 to a green set in a natural bowl in the dunes. It's an obvious setting, and while the course has changed almost entirely since its inception in 1889, the 10th is the one green site that still exists from the initial routing. It's set low to the ground with an upslope at the front that fades towards the rear, and the prevailing wind from behind suggests a low running shot between the gateway bunkers left and right is the correct play. Following another completely blind drive over the top of a dune ridge, the par 4 11th scampers into some of the course's more open terrain. Once the rampart is breached, the fairway sweeps right around an attractive bend of fescue rough. 11 is one of the course's milder holes, but still must be tackled with intent, as the area where the tee shots land is pitched at a reverse camber, meaning everything kicks left, though the green is still visible from this position. Usually approached with a shorter club, take care not to miss left, where the putting surface deflects shots into long grass. The first par 5 since the opening hole, 12, plays along the kind of rumpled, gorse and fescue-pinched ground that epitomises the character of links golf. Downwind tee shots to one of the course's narrowest fairways must thread a gap between bunkers. If they do, they'll catch a downslope, and the shortness of the hole illustrates County Down's tantalising duality of opportunity versus self-preservation. Trouble crowds the small green, so attempting to get home in 2 demands supreme nerve and accuracy. But hitting to the flatter section of fairway 75 yards short will leave a conservative chance to get up and down in 4. This 444-yard 13th is arguably the strongest on the second 9 and demonstrates County Down's blend of strategic and heroic play. Working back towards the heart of the property's sandhills, the choice on the tee is to either lay back to the widest part of the fairway, leaving a blind approach at an aiming post, or attack a slither of fairway flanking the dune on the left for a shorter, more open approach. This is another sublime green, one of the quickest at County Down, set at the base of a towering gorse-covered dune, with fronting ground contours that can help work low-chased second shots in from the right. In addition to an ever-changing landscape of tall dunes, tumbling fairways, and inspiring panoramas, County Down creates rhythms with greens that are alternate beats between plateaued and those set close to the ground, like at the par 3 14th. Here, the putting surface slopes gracefully off the front right corner, and tee shots will typically do well to land short of the high side embankment and ride the contours towards centre and back hole locations, taking care not to roll through the green where recoveries are unlikely. Play changes directions at the 15th back into the prevailing wind for the final stretch of holes. The first of these is the long par 4 that charges uphill to an open span of fairway that crests at 240 yards off the tee before veering to the right. With only the fescue roughs to worry about, drives should be hammered up the left, leaving an approach straight into the heart of a deep green set beyond a kettle depression and 3 bunkers staged left and right. Missing the green in the hollow to the left is manageable, but losing shots in the deeper depression on the right will lead to bogeys, or worse, if the ball jumps into the gorse. The short par 4 16th is the newest addition to Royal County Down. Built by British architect Donald Steele ahead of the 2007 Walker Cup. The former hole swung farther to the right, but the new version asks a different question on the elevated tee. How brave are you? One option is to safely hit 2 short clubs into the green, but even into the wind it may be too tempting to not pull a driver. Those who do will need to carry a deep pot bunker 40 yards short of the green on the right and hope the ball stays on line. Though playing from either of the 2 whiskered greenside bunkers leaves a reasonable chance to make a 3. The demanding par 4 17th is perhaps Royal County Down's most underappreciated hole. It moves through a mostly flat gorse plain past 2 pot bunkers on the right. An odd spring pond that once sat in the low of the fairway 100 yards from the green has recently been converted, thankfully, to a sand barren. And from there, the second shot climbs towards an open-fronted green that slides off on the right and has some intriguing hole locations, including a strong Sunday pin on the back left shelf. Missing it left is an error, leaving a downhill, downwind chip shot that has little hope of stopping close to the flag. Continuing along a wide gorse plain towards the clubhouse and the mountains of Mourne backdrop, the par 5 18th lacks the vertical drama that's come before it, but commands a different kind of attention, with 17 eyebrowed bunkers chaperoning the voyage. Though nothing is hidden, it's one of the most demanding drives at County Down, bending left towards the clubhouse, with the bunkers congesting matters all the way to the green. There's virtually no chance to reach it in 2 if not playing from the fairway, but a score can be made, as US player Jonathan Moores discovered when his Eagle 3 secured the 2007 Walker Cup for Team USA, the first time the Americans had won overseas since 1991. Superlatives fall short when describing the links at County Down. Its beauty is boundless. Its test unquantifiable. There is no way to experience it, to understand its multiplicity, other than to play here. The feeling of elation when walking on these hallowed fairways transcends a mere game, and becomes something vaster. It is, in other words, larger than life. No course is perfect, but if any were, Royal County Down stakes a claim.